Good afternoon. Welcome to the Citizens Bond Oversight Advisory Board special meeting. I'm Steve Mason. I have the pleasure of chairing this group. Cassie, can you determine if we have a quorum? We do? Okay. We have some minutes from August 25th. No, they're from a month ago. That we'll look at next, please. We have minutes from July 25th. Is there any discussion? Any motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? All right, Cassie will vote on approving the minutes. Motion passes. I'm excited for today's agenda in that our architect HOK has some presentations about what they're learning, what they're thinking about as they start designing a new jail. The eighth action item on our agenda is considering sites. And I think respecting everyone's time, we're going to take public comment now on that item, jump to 8, and then we'll take public comment again when we get to 8 at the end. And to comment, you need to complete one of these cards and give it to Cassie. And if you want to comment now, instead of about an hour and a half, you'd give her a card now. That would really help. I have a couple here, and we'll see if you want to comment now or later. Stephen Stefanik. Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon to you, and thank you for allowing me to speak today regarding agenda item number 8. For a quick introduction, my name is Stephen Stefanik, and I currently serve as the acting superintendent for Harding Independence Charter District. Today, you will enter into executive session to discuss the possible recommended locations of the next Oklahoma County Jail. And one of those for discussion include a property that is less than 2,000 feet away from the current Harding Charter Preparatory High School. While we understand the necessity of correctional facilities in Oklahoma County, and the free price tag provided is intriguing, we strongly believe that this particular proposed location on Britton Road and Kelly Avenue will do more harm than good for the future of our state, who are the students we serve today. You see, from 2003 to 2018, Harding Charter Preparatory High School served a different community located near the Paseo District on Chartel Avenue. For over 15 years, the school provided a top education to any student that walked through the doors, resulting in the school receiving a number of state and national recognitions and being named as one of the top Oklahoma public high schools from 2013 through 2018. In partnership with Oklahoma City Public Schools, we chose to move locations in 2019 and traveled north to land now on Kelly Avenue, the property that shares a fence line with one of the proposed locations for the next Oklahoma County Jail. Our desire to move one of the best public school options in Northeast Oklahoma City was to serve a community that was hungry to be provided a quality education option for students, and I believe we have delivered. Today, the school has continued to be rated as one of the top public schools in Oklahoma and consistently ranked in the top 150 high schools in the country despite COVID-19 challenges. And just to give a quick shout out to the work our educators and students do each day, our 114 graduates from the class of 2023 accumulated over $7 million in scholarships. These similar statistics are only true for 2 Oklahoma high schools, both located, ironically, here in our city and on Kelly Avenue. By providing a public and free education option for this part of the city that has been neglected for many years, we are now beginning to see the direct impact with 300 new homes being built west of the school, large development at the half entertainment area that we have all grown to love, and the addition of a new elementary school that we will open in the fall of 2024. You see, our schools provide a safe, nurturing, and conducive learning environment that this community seeks and this city and state needs. Placing a county jail near this school would introduce potential risks and disturbances that will negatively impact our students' sense of security and their ability to focus on their education. I urge you members to explore alternate locations that do not compromise the safety and educational experience of our current and future students and potentially destroy an education gem. I urge you members to make the right decision and choose the pathway to continue providing Oklahoma City classrooms filled with windows of opportunities, not one that views the new county jail. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I agree. Harding Charter Prep is a wonderful, wonderful school, and I appreciate your concerns. Sean McDaniel, please.
So I agree with Sean McDaniel, Superintendent of Schools, Oklahoma City Public Schools. I agree with everything that Superintendent Stefanik said. I want to add a little perspective just from our point of view. We think it's a matter of law that you disqualify item 8.1 from consideration. We believe through general counsel researching this, and then also Center for Educational Law, outside counsel, validating what we found, is that seems to be very clear that a school cannot be within 1,000 feet of a jail, or in this case, an adult detention facility. And these actually, as Stephen talked about, will share a fence line. And the law talks about property line to property line, not building to building. And so that would be argument number one. Argument number two would be the 2,000-foot rule, which talks specifically about sex offenders. And in a county jail, such as the one that's in existence and being proposed to build, you would from time to time, no doubt, find a sex offender who now would be within that 2,000-foot law. And so those are our two primary arguments. We've got 4 or 5, but I think just given the time permitted, I would encourage you to disqualify number 1 from consideration on your agenda today. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. I was unaware of the 1,000-foot property line rule and the 2,000-foot rule. That's helpful. Thank you. Cheryl Farrer.
Hello, and my name is Cheryl Farrar, and my husband and I worked at the police department for a total of 52 years. He started in 67 and I started in 75. At that time, we had our own jail there on our police property, and the Oklahoma County Jail was here in this facility. But then we combined them in the 90s, and everyone had hopes that it would solve all the problems that we had, which of course it didn't. It was probably worse. And I think a lot of that was due to the funding or lack thereof. The first time we heard about an escape, somebody had crawled out the window and had tied a bunch of sheets together, and we thought it was hilarious because it was such a stupid move. But I wasn't able to find out the total number of escapes, but here are a few examples of recent ones. January 27th of 21, Jesus Rubio escaped and was found 35 blocks south of the jail. July 31st of 2020, 2 prisoners escaped again by tying sheets together and shimmied down from the 12th floor of this jail. Hernandez and Rubio attempted escape, but Hernandez fell down from approximately the 4-foot floor and was captured immediately. Robdello was captured hours later. He had been in jail since 2019 for first-degree murder, assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, and domestic abuse. October 16 of 21, Nicholas Leach escaped from the jail. He had been charged at various times with false declaration to a pawn shop, second-degree burglary, and a gun charge. But there's also people who just get released from the jail, and they just walk away after being released. One such incident was at my desk on the first floor of the police department, and a girl had used my telephone while I was upstairs getting police reports. And when I came back, my billfold was missing from my desk. And come to find out, a girl that had just gotten released from the jail had actually stolen my billfold, as she had other people in Oklahoma City. And just by accident, we found out who had taken it. So people, when they leave, they don't necessarily have somewhere to go, which if it was there at the Harding school area, that could maybe be around our kiddos. In October of 21, a jail guard was stabbed by a handmade shank and held hostage. And the inmates live streamed the hostage situation with the hostage's telephone. Many years ago, a group of inmates overpowered a guard, got his keys and uniform, and got a few other guards in their uniforms. They tried to get out the front door, but were stopped by one of the sheriff's deputies. The trust has made several budgetary requests for staffing in the past few years. They want more money to pay the staff, more money to keep them, and they are always needing more employees, so it appears they're understaffed, as it has always been throughout the years. I have 2 grandchildren who are currently at Harding Charter Prep School, and hopefully a third one will be there as well. 2 other kids on my block also go to Harding, as well as 2 kids from our church. And to put real faces with pictures, these are our kids that go to harder charting right now. I don't want anything to happen to them, and I come from a perspective of safety for the kids. There's a lot of homes, the 300 across the street west of the school that was mentioned, and I'm not concerned about the growth of the area, but I am concerned for the safety. As they mentioned earlier, the sex offenders can't be within 2,000 feet of a school. If they get released, where are they going to go? I just don't think it's in the best interest of our kids to have a jail built so close to the kids. And I think the only way to prevent it is just to build at a different location. There can be just nothing good that would come of building a jail so close, even though the free land that was so generously offered by Susan Bergen, who in their right mind would even consider that risk. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I appreciate what you're saying about your concern about the safety of your grandchildren. Laura Schwartz?
Good morning. My name is Laura Swartz. I'm a property owner within about a mile and a half of the proposed location near Kelly and Britton Road. And while I understand it's just a proposed option, I want to firmly convey my opposition to that particular site. Although it is expected that a jail won't meet with any enthusiastic neighbors, I find this option to be particularly disappointing. The chosen location is very close to a school, which everybody has already discussed. And on top of that, it's near newly established businesses and some of the most remarkable growth in Northwest Oklahoma City. Most of the alternate options are situated away from residential areas with no immediate impact to the homes and neighborhoods around them. Utilizing some of the last available housing land in the heart of the county feels like a significant misallocation. I also acknowledge the importance of the financial considerations, but the exist alternatives with lower long-term impacts to the communities they will affect. The airport tracks stand out as logistical or logical choices. The government-owned tracks are already adjacent to a federal prison, and it seems to me like if planned correctly, the new prison could accommodate transfer inmates that are moving across the country and possibly generate income for the county. In addition to the financial aspects, I understand that the idea that free property sounds like a good idea. I find it concerning. Who in their right mind is donating a multi-million-dollar property without any conditions, especially on the final day of an extended offering period? It is crucial to conduct due diligence to understand the motivations behind such a donation. What does the donor stand to gain? In a state that has faced a share of scandals and mismanagement, accepting valuable land without comprehensive understanding of the circumstances feels grossly irresponsible. In addition to that, we don't own a home right there. We own a lot right there. And the reason for that it isn't a home already is because we went through a multi-year process of finding property that was surrounded by residential houses and agricultural businesses. We then went through the multi-month process of getting approvals from the city. And even though the property we own is residentially zoned, we spent months getting approval from the city to build. I find it odd that within days somebody can volunteer a property that is not zoned for anything like this and put all of the community in turmoil for having something added that could not possibly plan for. Again, I understand that nobody's excited to have a jail next to them, but this seems like a wildly irresponsible choice. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. I understand what you're saying, that that area is developing successfully and this wouldn't be the best use of the land in your view. Thank you. Todd Lane, Lade. Okay. Mark Lester. Okay.
Hey guys. So my name's Todd Lane. On the first home to the north of the proposed site on North Kelly. Pretty much everybody here has already stated, probably what I would state, other than as a crow flies, approximately half a mile away is another school. That's Christian Academy Private School on North Hefner Road. That is something to think about when some of these escapes happen. So besides that, that's about all I have, other than saying, I don't know if it is appropriate or not, I ask that you vote as if this was across the street from your house.
Well said, Todd. I understand. Thank you. Mark, Lester?
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Lester. I work adjacent from the property at North Kelly in Britain, the 77 acres. And to be full disclosure, there has been a lot of contention between many of the developers in that area, small business owners, and the property owner that's donating the property. I agree with what most people have said about the property, its location, the safety issues, the school. One thing I wanted to say about the school district is I find a little bit disingenuous what's being reported in the papers by one of the commissioners stating that the elementary schools downtown are in the same proximity. And though they are in close proximity, it's not the same. It's not immediately adjacent. Mark Twain is, I believe, 1.5 miles away. Even Emerson is close to 1 mile away. John Ricks is about 0.5 mile away. Plus the infrastructure that's downtown that won't be in the northeast part of the city, along with the safety issues that really affect, I think, our business, along with the property value. So you won't have the presence of the Oklahoma City Police like you do downtown. You won't have the presence of the Sheriff Department or those things that are important, but you will have people still, the same number, maybe more, visiting the jail. You'll still have more, the same or more people being released from the jail, and there isn't an infrastructure to take care of those people or transport them. The other things that I think that we have a more intimate knowledge of the property itself is I don't necessarily think it's a great deal. The property has a lot of issues. It's got several pipelines running across it. It's got what we consider probably an illegal dumping site on it, although it's called a composting site by the current property owner. Those things would have to be remediated. You also have an easement by OG&E running across the property that's not supposed to have any land disturbing activities. There's a lot of remediation that would need to be done that could be costly for the property when you have Oklahoma City offering property for sale at the airport that would probably serve the same purpose. And it's for those reasons that we oppose this location. We don't particularly care for the development of the jail or the current site. And so we would appreciate your consideration in removing this from further consideration.
Mark, thanks for pointing out as a neighbor, you wouldn't be thrilled to have a jail next to you. I understand. Krishan Patel?
Good afternoon. For many of the same reasons that have been stated earlier, we represent a client who owns property adjacent to the north of the proposed area at Britton and Kelly. For the exact same reason stated, it's a property line that's sharing with the school, and for the fact that our client has spent millions of dollars to purchase and develop their land, and we would think that it would be, had we known that this is a proposed location, they definitely would not have, targeted that area. And for many of the same reasons that others have stated, the school is an important area. Our client intends for their children to attend that school, and for those reasons, our client opposes that location.
Great, thank you. I understand your client might have made a different decision in buying the land. Thank you, sir. Bob Ravitz. You want to talk now or later? Yes, sir. Yeah, you want to hear the architect talk about what a jail looks like. So do I. Larry Jackson.
Good afternoon. I'm one of the homeowners that lives within 1 mile of that section of land. And for the reasons that everybody has already displayed, I would wish that the committee would decide on a different site myself, because I don't really want a jail for all the reasons that if any escapes, well, we're within walking distance of that jail, that proposed site. And as a homeowner, I would strongly agree with the rest of the people that I really wouldn't want that in my neighborhood. I wonder if the committee could look at, I know the cost of the thing, maybe they can tear the old jail down and put a new one in its spot to alleviate the issue of trying to find another piece of property. But I don't think that that property in close proximity to my home and the rest of the homeowners in that area would be beneficial to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I get what you're saying as a nearby homeowner, you really don't want jail. If you want to stick around, I think our architect, HOK, is going to talk about the existing jail sign, about would it work or not. Demetrius Johnson?
Hello, my name is Demetrius Johnson, and I live in Hope Crossing Housing Division, and I'm also a board member. I was unaware because the HOA. I'm so
Okay.
sorry, the HOA, and I was unaware of what was going on because I too am very busy. I'm not originally from Oklahoma, so I was looking forward to no longer having a house payment in that location. However, this has really stressed not only myself out, but my neighbors as well. Um, and like the other young lady, I'm just concerned with why would that much land be donated to a prison and not like maybe all the homeless people in the neighborhood or something other. Um, I'm just opposed to it, and hopefully you guys will consider that.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. As a nearby homeowner, you really don't want a jail. I understand. Sherika Stevens? Sharika?
I'm a little nervous here.
Okay.
So I live half a mile down the
I was a
road.
little nervous coming in here today.
Where are you?
I thought we'd get a lot of input.
My heart is going boom, 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 boom. So I live about half a mile down off of Shamrock Road, which isn't far from where the potential jail may be. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and now we have an acre. We bought a little park. We have an acre of land. I don't feel comfortable with the jail being there for her to run around and people from the jail walking when they get out. And I know it's a bus stop right there, and it's not very much many bus stops around there for them to get on the bus to go wherever they need to go. So that's a concern of mine, and my property value going down is a concern of mine. And also the traffic. I know we're widening Kelly, but it's gonna be even more traffic coming through in there, which isn't safe as well. And I also work in McBride Orthopedic Hospital, and that's a concern. We already have people coming in that could just come in. That's a very good concern. And I don't know, I'm not representing them, but that's a concern of ours because we're there all day long. And hopefully y'all will consider not to do that to us over there because I'm very nervous. Thank you.
I understand about your family safety and traffic.
Yes, please. And I don't want anything to happen to anybody that come on our property.
You'll tell them to stay off your property. Thank you. Regina Richardson. We'll try Regina later. Okay, we have Regina. Okay. Hi.
Hello. My name is Regina Richardson, and I am a resident. I actually moved into my home, which is probably about a mile from Britain and Kelly. I'm actually off of Kelly, but I won't give you my address. But I moved into my home as a child in 1971. So I've been there a really long time. I'm probably not the oldest person in this room, but I'm kind of up there. Um, for me, it's a safety issue. My home is my haven. I never worry about anything going on in the neighborhood, and maybe it is somewhere, but if it is, I don't hear about it. And I always have my ear to trying to know what's going on in the neighborhood because we're a pretty small neighborhood. So not only am I concerned about Harding, but my alma mater, Millwood, is to the east and north or south off of Martin Luther King. And so, of course, the children, but my biggest concern is it's just a safety issue. I feel really safe at my house. And if a jail goes in, I'm pretty sure that's going to change. And so I would just ask that you consider finding a different location, not just for me, but for the children and the residents in my area. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Virginia. I understand your concern about safety in a home you lived in for 40 years.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Sharon Smith.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Sharon Smith, and I live in the neighborhood on Shamrock Road, which is right down the street from the location that you all are considering building a jail in. And my concerns are the same as everybody who has spoken. Um, I don't want to be on a lockdown because people have escaped from prison. I don't want children to be afraid and they're on lockdown all the time. And the area is quite wooded, which means that someone can be, I live on about an acre. They can, and there's a bunch of trees back there, and they could just be on the other side of those trees and nab me when I get up to go to the store, to church, or whatever. So that's my concern. And it's all about safety, as you've heard everybody say. And, we have really, those are true concerns. So, the sex offenders, you know, the hospital, the children, the wooded area, and, safety. That's the general concern. And that's my concern also. So I do oppose this proposition.
Thank you, Sharon. I understand
Mhm.
you live in a pretty safe place. You want to stay safe. I understand. Latrina Rich.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Latrina Rich. I didn't have a chance to come the last time. I also live in Hope Crossing. I work for the University of Oklahoma. I was on my way to the Tulsa campus, and my mom said they're having a hearing. And I was like, well, I guess I'm about to turn right back around. And I called my staff and said, I'll have to see y'all later. But the reason why I am up here today is to state that I built a home. I'm 45. I built a home 15 years ago at the age of 30. And I was so excited to build my home in that area because it gave me security of being kind of country, but in the city. But also, it was across the street from my parents. And so we are exhausted. The neighbors are exhausted, the business owners are exhausted because we're having this battle with individuals or organizations that want to put businesses and things that are not going to lift and build our community. I am in my home. We have several parks in our area. It is very wooded, right? And because of that, we have to be very vigilant about individuals that might not live over there. The one thing that I pride myself about our area is that my son went to Cassidy. And when I would take him to school, if any time that you went down the street off of Broadway Extension, starting with 63rd, Britton, Hefner, all the way to Edmond, we didn't have any vagrancy. We don't have anyone standing on our roads asking for anything. It is a safety that we have and security living in that area that we're losing. And it's like we have this battle that people are trying to destroy our area. And what I would like to see is that it be built somewhere else, but then to use the land to encourage money, put a shopping center there, put a park there, a swimming pool, something like that to uplift the area, a grocery store, something like that. We don't need and we don't want a facility there. We know that they're going to have lockdowns. We know that a lot of the things that come into penitentiaries and any type of any type of facility like that normally are brought in by the staff. We know that they have drug issues. We know that they bring in cell phones. We know that they have issues within inside of the facilities that now in my neighborhood we have so many children that walk around freely with no concern in the world. And now that stress, that trauma We know about trauma. And so it's going to increase the percentage of trauma that possibly our children are going to experience. They're going to go from not having any lockdowns to possibly having multiple lockdowns a year, which is going to increase trauma, which is then going to increase anxiety and stress, which is then is going to increase our children not wanting to attend school. Then as parents and students and the agency and administration are going to start bringing in more professionals to then deal with the stress that our children are going to have. Then it's going to be a lifelong experience of trauma that our neighborhood is going to incur, our children and the parents. So when you all put this here, it's not just for the day, it's for the lifeline of the whole area for 100 years in the future. I thank you, and I would like for you all to consider denouncing this proposal and to use the land for something good. Thank you.
I understand. You want development that improves the areas around Hope Crossing. I hear you. Cecilia Woods, please.
Hello. Hi, Mike. I want to read a definition for you really quick. I'm Cecilia Robinson Woods. I'm the superintendent at Millwood Public Schools, but I'm also a resident on right off of about 88th and Eastern, which is less than a mile from the proposed location. Environmental racism, ecological racism, or ecological apartheid is a form of institutional racism leading to landfills and incineraries or hazardous or waste or retentions being disproportionately placed in communities of color. So I'm here also to represent the Northeast community. 73111 is home to the highest percentage of Black people in the state of Oklahoma. And we are within 2 miles of that location. In 73111, we already house a prison. We house more governmental agencies than anywhere else. We just got a grocery store. And so to have a conversation about 77 unavailable acres to the city of Oklahoma City, and the best thing we can think to do with it is to put a jail on it, is concerning. I service children right all in all of these areas, same as Steve, same as Sean. And just like our last spokesperson said so eloquently, we deserve the opportunity to prosper. Our community deserves the opportunity to prosper. There are lots of locations that are up for the taking for the jail, and we know it's needed, and we understand the economic impact of free land. But we are tired on the east side of being for sale. We're tired. We're tired of housing it. We deserve the opportunity to prosper. Our children deserve the opportunities to play freely. Our homeowners deserve the opportunity to protect our property as well. Thank you.
No, I understand. You want good neighbors. And you'll believe jail's a very good neighbor. Robin Bruno.
Good afternoon. I'm Robin Bruno. I am Vice President of the Oklahoma County Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, and they have asked me to come today and represent our group in opposition to moving the jail out by the airport. We think that as a criminal defense bar, this would be a logistical nightmare for transportation issues regarding getting inmates from the jail to the courthouse. There's been discussion of moving some court rooms out to this facility in order to lessen some of that impact. However, I do not think that that would be feasible or logistically proper to do. We would have to have more court staff. We would have to have more court clerks. It's just too much time. Right now, the jail oftentimes has a hard time getting our inmates over to court, and it's 3 blocks away. So if they can't get there by 9 in the morning, they're never going to be able to get all the way from the airport to the downtown courthouse in a responsible time period. We can't even get all of our inmates brought over for the 9 a.m. docket all at 9 a.m. Oftentimes, we have to move a lot of those inmates to 1:30 And then the sheriff's office can't get them transported between that time. Also, a lot of these individuals who are getting a release are getting released at 2 a.m. in the morning. If they're getting released by the airport, how are they going to find anywhere to go other than meander around town? And that is not safe for our people. That's not safe for our community. And so Oklahoma County Criminal Defense Lawyers Association would object to moving the location of the jail by the airport. It needs to be closer. This morning, I drove out to the location that is just east of I-35 on 10th Street. That's approximately 12 minutes away from the courthouse. I believe that that is a more feasible option to consider. And so I would ask you to remove the airport location from consideration.
Thanks, Robin. Your view of the airport's too far away. Tisa Linville, please.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I am a resident off of Clover Lane, just down the street from the location off of Britton and Kelly. She brings up a great point. You know, who wants prisoners walking the streets at 2 a.m., being released in your neighborhood? We definitely don't. We have 3 schools in that location. We also have kids are traveling at 9 in the morning. Kids are walking to school and then back from school later in the day. Yeah, we definitely don't need prisoners walking with them. We also have a soccer field, a big soccer association just down the street, across the street from the Christian Academy. Kids are there all day, all night, all hours of the evening and the daytime. From my understanding, there are 7 other locations to consider. I'm not sure why that area, that wooded area on the northeast side. I think the northeast side. I'm standing with the northeast side. She's right. We have endured a lot over there with the food desert. We have the correctional facility, which is down the street from Millwood, and then now we're trying to put a prison system just within miles of that. As a resident, it's very, very frustrating. I am aware of the woman that owns the property, of her connection with the city. She was awarded last week with an award from the city for being environmentally friendly. So I am aware that she does have connections with the city and has done a lot of things with the city and a lot of things against the city. But this is just hitting a little bit too close to home. I think this is a little bit too much. And I do ask, like the gentleman asked earlier today, consider it if it was right next to your home, because this is our home. I am a single mother of 5 children. This is down the street from me. Our backyards are big. They are very wooded. I hardly know if my neighbors are out. So if somebody's getting released at 2 a.m. in the morning and they decide that they just aren't quite ready to do good, guess where they're going to end up? In my backyard or in somebody else's backyard. So I do really ask that you consider to move the location to one of the other 7 that you have to consider. Thank you.
I understand your concern about safety for you and your family if people have been released.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you, ma'am. JD Baker.
Good afternoon. Hi, Steve. Hi, Mike. Good afternoon. I come speaking here on the behalf of just not being a District 1 resident, not just a 6th generation Oklahoma County resident, but in this setting as the chair of the Citizens Oversight Committee for Oklahoma City Public Schools. We passed $1 billion bond last year with the whole mission of making sure that we have great school facilities for our kids and their families. As we've been looking at different sites for potential new buildings, we found a great location to build a new high school. And that location is about a mile and a half away from one of the facilities, or one of the site locations that's being considered, and that's the one on Kelly and Britton. And I would honestly ask for that to be removed from consideration of that location, Kelly and Britton. Yes, I understand it's free money, but at the end of the day, we have to think about not just the cost to the county and to what the county is doing with its bond, but we have to think about the cost to our communities, the cost to our families, the cost to our neighbors, and the cost to our kids. When we really want to build a better school district, a better communities for our kids, we want to make sure that they're safe. This is about a public safety facility, correct? I understand that. That's why we're getting a new jail. But what is safe about that location? When you think about the location, think about what is safe. And for that site that's being offered at Kelly and Britton, being considered right next to a high school and within, I believe, within a 4-mile radius, I believe you have 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 3 or 4 high schools. I tried to do the count within a 4-mile radius, and I don't find anything safe about that. So I highly encourage that not be considered as a location. Also, for the record, I would like to correct something on the agenda. Kelly is spelled incorrectly on the agenda. It's actually spelled with Kelley, because it's in Oklahoma City, and Edmond is spelled Kelly, just for the record. Thank you so much.
Judy, thanks for helping us with our agenda. And I understand there's a lot of schools in the neighborhood. Thank you. Barry, Schmel.
Good afternoon. My name is Barry Schmelzenbach, and I am the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Public Charter School Association. And I really want to thank this board for the opportunity for the community to come out and voice their concerns and their input into this decision. For nearly 2 decades, Harding Charter Preparatory, its faculty, its staff, and its leadership have worked tirelessly to build one of the most important, one of the most impactful public school choices, not just in our community, but in our county and in our state. Every major school district in America is fighting that perception of a pipeline from the classroom to the prison. I strongly encourage you to consider the impact of what message this sends to our community, because it literally removes that pipeline, replaces it with nothing more than a fence. So I encourage this board, as I echo the concerns of our community and of our educators, that this choice, this adjacent property to Harding Charter Preparatory, be taken out of consideration. And we respectfully request that you decline this offer. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand your concern about Harding Charter Prep next door. Christy Simmons. Simons, sorry.
My reasons are selfish because I've lived there since 1990. And it's been a hidden paradise here in the city, the country and the city. It's the best location. I don't know what's wrong with the lady who donated it. Obviously, something is shady and you all need to investigate. Seriously. There's somebody's getting greedy. That's the whole thing. There's no reason for a jail to be there. I don't want it. It's not safe. The children, the schools, everything you've already heard, you get it. But seriously, y'all need to check on the lady. And I oppose this 100%.
Okay. I understand, Christy, about quality of life, and you have a good one as is, without the jail. Clay Curtis.
My name is Clay Curtis. I'm an attorney here in Oklahoma City. I'm a former public defender. I also run a law firm. We have several, almost over a dozen employees. I'm also a property owner on the east side as well, and a lifelong resident of that area. If I'm reading the room behind me correctly, everyone here opposes this for what is essentially public safety issues. And I truly do sympathize with those sentiments. However, I will remind everyone that we live in a prosperous city, one that we all hope to see continue to grow and prosper. And with that comes a local jail. We're going to have a jail somewhere. And I'm sure that no one in a vacuum wants to live next to a jail. And I appreciate everyone's sentiments. But obviously, realistically, we have to have a jail. We all know that. And it is our job as a community to make sure that wherever we put that jail, the surrounding occupants are safe. And we need to fix the problems at the jail wherever we put it. And so what I would say to this, to the room really, in fact, and to our community, is that I think when picking this location, We need to be mostly concerned with logistically what is a proper location for the jail and how does it facilitate the relationship with this courthouse, the county office building, and the like. There are legitimate safety concerns with locations as far away as some of the ones being offered here today. And I can tell you as a longtime public defender, I echo the sentiments of Ms. Bruno when she addressed the board that the sheriff's office does not always get clients to jail. There are a number of problems with transportation issues. Sometimes they're at capacity at times. We've been forced to go to the jail to conduct court, literally. I think we spent almost a year down in the basement having court in the jail. We had to drive there ourselves and so on and so forth. The point I'm making is that some of these facilities create very cumbersome problems, not only for ourselves and our community, but to the due process rights. If you can't get people to the courthouse in an efficient way, you can't get them out of your jail. We'll be having this conversation again years to come because we'll need an even bigger jail because we won't be fixing the problems right in front of us. And first and foremost, we have to figure out how to get people to jail. We have to figure out how to keep people alive while they're in jail. And we have to get them to court on time and safely. And if we can't do that, then we should free them all. And because they're held in jail and presumed innocent of their crimes. And if we can't ensure their presence at court, then we're not doing our jobs. These places we're talking about, by the airport in particular, I think has a significant logistical problem. I share the community sentiment about the harm on the northeast side, and we need to figure out a way to build this facility closer to proximity to where they have to come to court.
Thank you, Clyde. I get the transportation proximity issue and people self-employed. And, we'll all agree in this room, we probably need a new jail. We got a tough job here figuring out where to put it. Milo Wilson.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Milo Wilson. I represent Millwood Public Schools. I am the vice president of the school board. You've already heard from my superintendent as well as a few board members who are in your presence. I'm just echoing the same public safety concern. Our school is not gated. Our school is not blocked off by anything. So this jail is putting an immediate threat on our district. And I'm also a resident of 73111. My mother is, my father is. So I have valid concerns with every issue about a jail being built down the street. Thank you. That's all I have.
Appreciate what you're saying. Not a great neighbor. Okay. Mr. Phillips, starts with a B.
So when you watch TV,
Tell me your
lawyers
first
go
name.
from the courtroom.
Remind me of your first name, please.
It's Bo.
Thank you.
Yeah. When you watch TV, lawyers go from a courtroom to sitting down and talking to their clients before the commercial break ends. And, that's an exaggeration. I think we all would understand it is one. But the current location of the jail is, for me, a 5-minute walk. And there's other things to do. You have to sign in, you have to schedule an appointment, things like that. But it's doable. My name is Bo Phillips. I'm a private attorney. I do, amongst other things, criminal defense work. Like Clay Curtis, I've been a public defender. Rob McPhail made some really good points about this. I'm sure Mr. Ravitch would make some even better points. My perspective is this. Our jail is already a civil rights nightmare. And I don't know that moving it really helps that or renovating it helps that. I don't know if that's our discussion today. But I can tell you that as a private attorney who, when someone walks into my office and says, would you help my son or would you help my brother? Part of my consideration is access to my client and what that does to my bottom line. If I have to drive out to the airport and every visit to my client doubles or triples the amount of time it takes me to do that, I'm going to be less willing to do that. And as a public defender who represented, roughly 80 to 90 clients at a time, I don't know what the current caseload is. We were overworked back then, and I can't imagine that they're not overworked today. But if I had to spend more than 5 minutes going to the jail, every minute of that is less time that I can spend with a client. That's a decrease in my effectiveness. That's a decrease and them getting effective assistance of counsel. And so when you look at where, if we're going to relocate the jail out of the downtown area, I would urge you to look at not only distance on the map, but calculate commute times. Commute times at 8:30 in the morning, like as Ms. McPhail said, getting them to the courthouse in 3 blocks, they have issues. Talk to some of the deputies that transport those inmates, and what is the riskiest part of their day? I bet you it's that van ride. So we need to decrease risk for both the people ensuring our safety and the people that we're accusing of crimes. The heroes in the public defender's office are already overworked. If you start trying to add hour-long commutes back and forth to the jail as part of their daily routine, we're going to have an even harder time getting good lawyers work for Mr. Evans. Amongst many other issues that I think are relevant that my 3 minutes doesn't allow me to touch on, I think that the further you move out from the courthouse downtown and the community downtown, most of the law offices are downtown. When you start moving out of that area, you start bringing up issues that are more important than how much the land underneath the building costs. So appreciate your time, guys. Thank you.
I understand drive time, and HOK is going to touch on that today in their presentation. I hope you'll stay and listen. We're going to talk about drive time. Nikki Nice. Hello, Councilwoman.
Good afternoon. Good to all of you. I'm here as two dual roles. One, as the council person for the ward where we have a potential site. Two, as a resident that lives not far from also a potential site. Britton and Kelly is a issue for our community as well as me. We've worked very hard. Our community and residents have worked extremely hard to keep harm from happening and continue to happen in Northeast Oklahoma City. And their advocacy has assisted with us being able to ask you all to remove Northeast located sites from your potential list. And we are very grateful for that. However, for us to be surprised by this potential free land by Bergen Enterprises was a slap in the face to not only myself, to our business owners that are in proximity to her current property, as well as her current uses that are not the best uses. She has the potential to do a lot better. And as I stated in the article, I hope you all read it from our other civic leaders within the community, that she had plans to turn this into a place of refuge as far as housing is concerned. So to now offer it as a place of incarceration is a slap in our face for us to ask her to do better with her property. She has had communication with with those business owners, and at times had not talked to those business owners, and still doing the practice that she's doing that we wish that she would stop. She does not have a great relationship with our city. So I want to make sure you all are aware of that. She has practiced this same type of composting on the south side of Oklahoma City. That was not the best use of that property. So I do want you all to realize, just because land is free does not mean that is the best opportunity. I also heard this morning from one of the commissioners to say that the current jail is close to 2 schools. And I would be remiss to say it is not in the closest proximity as this land is currently being offered. So I think there are definitely better uses. And I think, as we also heard from local attorneys, that if there is a potential site that is further out, it should also include ways to have court within that facility as well. So I thank you for your time. I know this is a difficult subject matter for you all to handle, and I hope you will continue to consider the thoughts of our community in this process.
I understand the neighborhood. Simca Stevenson?
Good afternoon. My name is Senka Stevenson, and my kids attend Millwood Public Schools. And I want to urge you guys to consider really hardly when you're considering this location on Kelly and Britain. Our kids are going through so much turmoil every day. They have fire drills, they have shooter drills, they have stress every day from their life that they have to adopt as not having safe environment as it is. Putting a jail is not an answer. The fact that it's a land is free, you can't put a price tag on our kids. I don't agree that this is a good location. I hope you guys reconsider, and I'm talking as a parent and a future resident of Northeast Oklahoma City. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Not a great location. Okay, we're gonna leave the public comment part about potential sites and go back to our agenda, and we'll come back to public comment at the end if there's more comments. We have a recurring item 2, discussion and possible action regarding the planning, design, management, construction of the new county adult detention center. I don't have anything to talk about at agenda 2. Does anyone? No. We're going to go to item 3, departmental items, discussion and possible action regarding a presentation from HOK on the existing jail facility, past reports and related issues concerning the existing site. Is it HOK's turn? Okay.
Good afternoon to the board and good afternoon to everybody here. I actually want to applaud the people from Oklahoma County and the people on this board and the commissioners for even having this session. We don't see that often in a lot of the places that we go and do this. Something unique here that they've done is they actually solicited for people to offer up sites instead of basically sometimes where some entities shove sites down everybody's throat. We're here, you guys all have a chance to express yourselves. I applaud you for being here doing that. It's our job to look through those and take your comments and feedback, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few moments, but it's a good thing and a good opportunity, and I think a great thing that they gave you the platform here to speak. My name is Jeff Bradley. I'm National Director of the Justice and Government Program for HOK Architecture. Here to talk to you today, and they haven't been mentioned, but I want to mention Recent Associates is our partner on this project. They're a large local firm, a very quality firm, and Farouk Kareem is here today, and he's going to open up and address the first part of our presentation here today. Farouk.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon, guys. It's good to see you. As you can tell, we've got a tough job, but it's going to be an important, rewarding job, and we're gonna all work through this together. I want to echo some of what Jeff said regarding some of what we've heard today and some of the community input. It's going to take a village to get this done. As somebody who represents the local architect that lives and works in this community, I've heard from actually some friends, Cecilia and others, and we appreciate she may be gone. And I want to just acknowledge some of the really good comments that we heard today. There were a lot of really good comments. Regina, one thing that you said, and not to make you feel old, but she mentioned that she lived in her home since 1971, and that's the year I was born. So that's significant. That's a long time, right? And so I think just we hear you, and we appreciate all the comments and input. So today, what I'm going to start with is I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we're doing. We're going to talk a little bit about a 90-day look ahead. And then Jeff's going to step in and he's going to talk about some of the things that we know from the master plan about the existing site and maybe some challenges with keeping the jail in its current location. And then we'll kind of wrap up with some discussion about the list of sites that we currently have on the list. There are currently 12 sites that we are evaluating. As you guys know, and hopefully the community knows, that We have, as part of this process and part of the evaluation, we have eliminated, I think, 5 or 6 sites already. We're back now to 12 sites. Um, so as you can see, we're in the process of analyzing and evaluating the proposed sites. We're gathering information on those sites. The 6 new sites, that one of which we've talked a lot about today, we are just now gathering information on and getting to know and understand some of the challenges with those sites or potential opportunities. We have been developing and refining a scoring process and a matrix, which I will, after again, Jeff kind of talks about the existing jail site, I'm going to talk about some of the criteria and things that we're looking at to evaluate these sites. And hopefully that will give everybody a little bit of peace of mind that, some of your concerns are going to be heard and evaluated as we go through this process. So last week we had some great meetings, and we had 2 full days of meetings, Monday and Tuesday. I want to acknowledge the current jail staff who participated in those meetings. We really appreciate their time, their enthusiasm, their input, their ideas, their creativity. We walked through kind of a preliminary program, basically a listing of all of the spaces and some preliminary conversations about how the jail will be planned. And really, again, want to applaud them. It's clear in sitting through 2 full days of work sessions with that team that they really care about what they do, and they are thoughtful about the input that they've given. Coming up next week, we have a full day to talk about the behavioral health center that will be part of this complex and project. And so, one of the things that we always explain to our clients is that we add information in layers. So we've gone through this first round of interviews and work sessions. We're going to do this again and kind of play back what we heard, get feedback and input. We will do the same thing with the planning. So there'll be opportunity to course correct and get more feedback and input. But that is something that's coming up. And then as we get into September, there's a couple of things that will be happening sort of in concert with each other. We're going to be, as we start looking at, the actual listing of all the spaces and the functional planning of the jail, we're going to start working with the jail staff and team about just, a staffing plan and how the building might function and operate. Continue to have some of those jail meetings. And then start to begin to develop those site planning concepts and building planning concepts. Now, some of this stuff is going to kind of go hand in hand with site selection. It is our plan and our goal to have the site selected sometime in November. And again, we're still kind of going through that process and evaluating those. As you can see in the kind of blue squares that happen starting kind of now through September, is the selection process for the construction manager at risk. That's a very important piece of the team, very important partner that we'll be working with. And we really applaud the county for engaging that system of project delivery. We welcome the collaboration. That's how we do most of the projects that we do and most of the work that we do. It's a really great process. So with that, I'm going to hand this back over to Jeff Bradley, and he's going to talk specifically about the existing site. Which one? It's the right one.
Thank you, Farouk. I'd be remiss if I also didn't introduce today Jay Tullis. He's also with Reese & Associates. You're in pretty good hands here. Between the two of them, they have over 70 years at the firm. So they have a lot of experience here in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma County. And I'll show you some drawings here in a few moments, but a couple of the points I wanted to make about why the existing site doesn't work well to put another jail right there on the existing site. One, there's not enough room. 2, you'd have to acquire additional land downtown, and not sure whether that's available, and that hasn't been put forth yet at this point. If we did do something there, we'd have to acquire additional land, which I'll show you some drawings in a minute that we looked at, and you'd have to shut down either Kerr or Chartel Avenues. There's a limited roof room in the future for growth and expansion. Right now, we've heard expression of interest from the staff of having a single-story, two-tier facility because of the problems that they've experienced over dealing with the high rise with elevators that have never worked. And also the existing site, if we were to put it back downtown, it would not be able to be redeveloped. One of the other things about putting it, if you did want to put it in the same space, there is an option, is you can actually go ahead and move everyone out of the building for a little over 2 years to really about 2 to 3 years, build a new building and bring them back. But where do you put them in the meantime? Where would you put over 1,500 people, and how would you handle the safety and security of that and such? And that right now, there's not a place to house that group and give them access to the courts as they need it. So that's kind of some of the things regarding that site where we looked at initially. When we looked into the original master plan, we evaluated a new jail in the existing site, and we were able to come up with a solution, a possible solution. It was 3 levels, 6 stories. One of the things I'll explain to you, when you have a single level, there's a single floor on the bottom, and then there's a second tier, which is called a mezzanine. That's pretty much the way these facilities are designed around the country. So it's actually one level is 2 stories tall. So a 3-level facility would be a 6-story building. It would require, again, the additional land purchase, the land that would be that made the most sense at the time of looking at it is because of the existing jails in this space. I'll show it to you. Right here, that's the existing jail. That's there right now. So again, it would require the additional land acquisition, and there's really not a lot of room for future growth. Here's the land right here. The areas in yellow, it's property that's not owned by the county. Not that the county won't buy land, that's everybody else's decision, not ours. But they have all the different options in front of them, which again, I applaud them for doing because that doesn't happen in many places that we go. The area in orange is the existing 13-story jail tower that needs to come down. That's the first floor with all the support functions down below on the first floor, housing to the north. The second floor pretty much is all housing and medical health areas. And then the third level here are more housing areas for the entire facility. So then another option is a single story and a single level with 2 tiers. And something like this, it's a lot more footwork. You don't have, in this particular example, there aren't any elevators, which has been a real thorn in the side of the existing jail over all these years, and not just for everybody involved, for the inmates, for the staff. The facility right now is not a very pleasant place to work, and that's one of the things that's really important if they're going to get new people to work there and have people be interested in working there, having a better, more quality work environment and a safer work environment. And that's something that comes with a newer facility. In this particular one, the majority of the housing is on the right side. The core functions, support functions are all down the middle with the spine you see in the middle. And on the left side is the focus that we'll be doing for specialized mental health and medical health transitional area to prepare people to be more productive upon release. The advantage of that, if you move this someplace else, it does take about 45 acres and additional parking, but there's a lot of room for future growth. And that's something that we're also considering. Another one is we looked at a 2-level facility and kind of show you what that looks like there too. We split the housing functions, left side, right side. There was a site that we looked at. This was a couple of years ago. That was about 10 minutes from downtown. There was room for future growth, and then the value of redevelopment of the existing site to whatever the city would want it to do, or the county would however they handled it at that point. Those are kind of unknowns. So it's really the move across the country right now, more so to move away. The cities and counties are growing. And with that, the real estate downtown not only becomes more valuable, it's become more crowded. In the coastal states, we tend to go up. We're looking at one in New York right now at over 20 stories. The central parts of the country, they tend to go out just because there's more land available. It's really a matter of not just economics, it's a matter of what's available to look at and consider. You've got all these different sites for us to look at and evaluate, and Farouk will show you the map in a little bit. But here's an example of some that distance in miles, and this is more common than not. We're tending to now go out more than up. One thing I did not put on this list, this is where new jails are going to be separated from the courts and in remote locations and such. One of the things I didn't put on here is there's some counties that are actually completely redoing their entire justice complex. And we're doing not just a new jail, but a new courthouse, new sheriff's headquarters, new juvenile detention, and also some other county administrative buildings where they're literally moving everything out of downtown. But that's not the, well, we just finished it in Indianapolis. We're doing it in Detroit. Another one, Chambers County, Texas, next to Houston. But those are entire new campuses of the entire justice system. But this is, again, what I wanted to point out here, it's more common than not for now for people to move the jails away from the courthouse downtown. And they have, the people who spoke here earlier today, I respect what you have to say, because those are all challenges that they had to deal with. And they've found out ways for them to overcome. And Farouk?
Sure. Do we as a board have any questions so far?
What would the expense be to create that swing space if we were to consider the site, the current site? Apart from buying the land, are we talking 30, 40 million for that swing space?
No, I couldn't give an answer out that. There's only really one company right now that's providing trailers for something like that. And one of that size, scope, and magnitude of what your needs are, that would have to be looked at a lot closer before we could even ballpark a figure on that.
Thank you.
I mean, so just to follow up though, I mean, it's safe to say we'd be in effect building 2 steps of a detention facility, right? I mean, we'd have to build the swing space, which had to have all the attributes of a jail.
Yes, that's
before
correct.
we built the jail.
That's correct.
Anything else? Okay. So just real quickly, I mentioned at the beginning that we would share some of the criteria and site evaluation things that we're going to look at. So we just thought it would be good to have the full map up here. Again, we're not proposing any of these sites. These are all sites that have been offered up, and we're in the process of evaluating and not yet at a point where we can endorse or suggest anything. But first and foremost, you know, as we think about the type of site that we need, we got to think about, you know, is this going to be a low rise or high rise jail, like Jeff talked about? And so we got to think about the lot size or the size of the land. So we think that, you know, that could be anywhere from 35 to 70 acres. Again, distance to the courthouse, that's a big deal. And it's more complicated than just how many miles away is it. So we're thinking about not distance as the crow flies, but you know, what's the actual travel distance? What types of roads are we traveling on? Are they 2-lane, 4-lane roads? Are we taking any highways to get to the courthouse? So thinking about that travel time, thinking about the current zoning. Heard a lot about that today, and some of the things that were commented on and suggested or at least stated as far as requirements for setbacks from things like schools and churches. We've begun to research that, and those are some correct statements. We also want to consider adjacent zoning. Again, schools, churches, but we also want to think about what's around, what's kind of in the neighborhood. So those are some things that we're looking at. Again, I mentioned access to highways. That's going to be a big issue depending on whether we are on the east or west side of 235. One of the things that, you know, we've been kind of thinking about is, you know, just the quickest and easiest access to the courthouse is from the east on 235. And so that corridor we think is kind of important as we consider some of these sites. And then, you know, rush hour traffic, I think it was maybe one of the attorneys that kind of brought that up. You know, one of the things that we want to think about is, you know, as you're getting to the courthouse from the jail, are you going through any major interchanges? that could be an issue during rush hour. Some other things that we're thinking about, utilities are going to be a big issue, access to electric, water, sewer, gas, fiber, data communications. Are there any other easements on the site? There are a lot of things running through the ground, especially in an oil and gas state. We've got gas pipelines, oil pipelines, so we want to understand, those considerations and challenges. We're thinking about topography. The flatter the site is, the less site development we're going to have. Some of the sites that we've been looking at, portions of the site are in the floodplain, so we want to understand how much of the site is usable. One of the next steps kind of in evaluating those sites is understanding what the soil conditions are and how much we're going to have to remediate or do on the sites. We want to think about, at a high level, we want to think about acoustic considerations depending on what's around the sites. We want to build this facility to ACA guidelines, and there are some ACA guidelines with regard to acoustics in the building. We have to take into consideration the cost of the sites, any site development costs, and then other considerations. It's been interesting as we evaluate these sites. Occasionally we'll find a site that has an issue that maybe the others do or don't have. And then as part of that process, we are developing I think a pretty good list of pros and cons for discussion with the committee, and we will continue to do that as we move forward. So, any questions? Okay.
So Farouk, is that total presentation?
That's what we got for today.
So I think what we've actually covered here is agenda items 3, 4, and 5, all involving HOK. That's correct? Fair. And Stacy, County Engineer, do you have anything to add? Nothing to add. Is there any public comment about the HOK presentation, Mr. Ravitz?
My name is Bob Ravitz. I'm Oklahoma County Public Defender. I'm a little blunt on a lot of issues. So the first thing I'll say is what the people said today. It would be utterly absurd for you to put the facility at Kelly and Britton. I can't believe anybody would even consider doing something like that. First of all, Broadway Extension is an absolute mess at 5 o'clock and in the morning when you'd be transporting people back and forth from the jail. Secondly, you heard from all these people that when people are released, they have to have a place to go. And I just think it's absurd. So that was my quick comment on that, Steve. I appreciate you going with me yesterday and looking at some sites in the Oklahoma City area. I am adamant that it needs to, that was what the HOK put it up, that it had to be within 10 minutes of downtown. Everybody talked about it. When they passed the bond issue, they talked about that it needed to be within 10 minutes of downtown. And it does need to be in 10 minutes of downtown. And I'm sorry, I'm going to upset some people now in the backyard. But you made a big mistake, and I asked you to reconsider it when you eliminated that site off I-35 and 4th. I'm going to tell you, just east of 4th, there is nothing out there. That land's been vacant since 1950. I agree. Move the park somewhere. That would be that is an issue. But I'm going to tell you that is 8 minutes away from downtown and this courthouse because I drove it yesterday. I drove it again today. Okay, it took me 7 minutes to get back. There's tons of space there, and whatever. And there's nothing. There is little or no residential within a mile. And that is so important. I'm going to tell you, one, that obviously I don't want residential to be rent, but most importantly, I want access to programs. The diversion hub is going to be built on Linwood, okay, just off of that. So the diversion hub is great. You know what they do every day? They pick up anybody we ask them to, and they'll take them to the diversion hub, and they'll help them find homes or some place to live. You put it out in a location that's further than 10 minutes from downtown, you've got a complete and total mess. So the real issue is, can you find space downtown? And if it means steading over 2 extra months this development and coming up with a location that you all can live with, and that everybody can live with, I think is the way to go. So, and I know it takes political courage, because whatever person you say no to, that council person, that county commissioner's going to say, not in my district. But your job is to do what's right. Because if you don't do what's right, we're going to have the same situation we had 30 years ago when we built that jail. Everybody knew we were making a mistake when we built a high rise that big. And sure enough, that's what happened. Look for locations closer in if it need be, or reconsider that location on I-35. There's some other locations that are closer to that I'd recommend. Thank you for your time.
I think I would add to your comments a comment you would make in talking to HOK. I've asked them, if we went vertical, what do you see in other cities? And they said 5 stories.
I can live with 5 stories. I mean, obviously, the key is getting enough elevators that are useful. And the key is the design. I'd much rather have a 5-story jail that's 5 minutes away from the courthouse and 5 minutes away from the diversion hub than have a 1-story jail that's sitting out on the Kickapoo Turnpike in Harrah. I mean, that's utterly absurd to do something like that. And then I don't even want to talk about the effect it would have on my staff. So could we go with a smaller version than a tower? Maybe that's not the best thing, but maybe that's what we need to do to keep everything close. I mean, obviously, I'm scared to death, because if my staff have to travel 30, 40 minutes to go to see their clients, to see one client, it'll take forever to move a case. People will sit there a longer times, because obviously the lawyers who have to be in court, right now they're in court and they'll run over to the jail at lunchtime and see their client. Can't do that anymore, okay? If it's anywhere longer than 5 or 10 minutes away. So yes, your HOK's presentation, 5, I can live with that versus out in the middle of nowhere. Thank you.
And then you would probably recommend we reopen the land acquisition process a 3rd time for a 20-acre site within 10 minutes of downtown.
Yes, sir. I would recommend that, definitely. I think that's the smartest thing that you can do. And then you don't have to worry about some of the neighborhoods that we're trying to put them that make no sense at all. And if you're not going to do that, there are 1 or 2 other locations that are close enough that you could consider, like the one I just recommended.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Is there any other public comment on the HOK presentation? Then we're going to move to agenda item number 6, which is discussion and possible action to review a draft of CMAR RFQ requested by me. This is the putting the RFQ out to hire a contractor as a construction manager at risk. Stacy, our county engineer.
We haven't made any changes to it other than the dates. They're all constantly moving. You've seen this for a few meetings now. It's ready to go. When you guys want to recommend it, we've put this similar package out on the street not too long ago for our Krause Center, which is our new sheriff's office, new emergency management facility. And we got a lot of good responses and a lot of good feedback from the contractors that they thought it was a pretty good RFP. So ready to go when you are.
Questions for Stacy?
I just want to commend them for their good effort and good work to date, and I'm ready to move this forward.
I have a motion. Do I have a
We
second?
have a motion.
Second.
Thank you, Dino. Any discussion from the committee? Cassie, let's do a vote.
All right, it'll hit the street in September.
Chantel, wherever you're hiding, thank you. Did a great job preparing our document. Okay, the next agenda item is discussion and possible action regarding our next meeting. Stacy, are we far enough along to set a meeting, or we'll figure it out later? You think?
Repeat that, please.
Do we want to set a meeting date today or when we're a few weeks from now and see where we're at?
To get it on everybody's calendar so we can make sure we have a quorum, I'd prefer to set a date and time
What's a
today.
good time period for our next meeting for you, would you suggest?
I think towards the end of September. I think Tuesday's been working pretty good for you guys in the afternoon. It works good. There's no conflicts with other meetings. Either one of those last 2 weeks.
So the 19th or the 26th of September. What are our thoughts?
I had the 26th blocked off from our initial discussion, so.
I think, is the 26th good? Do I need a motion to set that date? I have a motion setting September 26th for our next meeting.
1:30 in this meeting, in this room.
Yes, sir. I have a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, vote yes or no? And then I would ask for a motion to enter executive session to discuss the sites.
Move.
I have a motion, is there a second? Any discussion? Cassie? All right. Okay, we're gonna go into executive session. Our guests are welcome to stay in this room. We're going into another room. We'll be a bit. You ready, Kathy? Do I need a motion to return? Can I have a motion to return? So moved. Is there a second? Any discussion? Vote, please. All right, so we returned to site selection, agenda item number 9. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
I would like to make a recommendation that we eliminate sites 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11, as they don't meet the criteria that we currently be considering.
Okay. Second.
Discussion within the committee. Any public comment? Okay. Can we have a roll call vote? Or your vote? I mean, we vote, let us just
Yes.
punch
It
something.
won't work.
It's fine.
It won't. I don't know if we
Yeah,
can
we
get it up.
can't scroll up or
Yeah,
down to vote,
let's-
so let's do voice.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And for the interest of the public, site number 1 that was just eliminated is a recommendation that goes from us to the Board of County Commissioners. Site number 1 that's in motion to eliminate is the 77 acres of land located at the northeast corner of Kelly and Britton Road. Okay, anything else to talk about today, team? Cassie, do we need a motion? How do we do this? You want a motion? Have a
Move
motion
to
to adjourn.
adjourn.
Have a motion, second, discussion.
Pat, second. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.